Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. And June is upon us. And do you know what that means? That means the Optima Batteries Where to Start video is here for you guys. So, you know, these are videos that you guys can take and use on a lake that's similar to yours. I try to choose lakes all across the country. I read down through those comments and some of the lakes I choose in this video are some of them that I've got from previous comments. But with that said, if you leave a comment and you've liked this video, you're going to be entered for a chance to win a brand new blue top Optima battery. Just over a $200 value. They're great batteries. I've got some in some of that farm equipment that's really old. They'll last forever. So we just randomly go down through there and we pick one. Hayden Barnett is the winner, man. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for being a subscriber to my channel. And send me an email through my website and I will send you a Optima battery blue top certificate. Super excited for you, Hayden. But you guys watching this video, be sure you comment and like it, and we'll go down through there, and next month we may pick you and you may be a winner. So let's get right off into it. I picked this episode, I picked 3 lakes. Man, I picked Ray Roberts, right there in North Texas, just a super cool lake. I picked the Winter Haven, never been there, don't know anything about it, but somebody commented, man, let's do some Florida lakes. I've had comments do natural lakes. And then I picked another lake that's really off my radar, High Rock Lake. I have been there a time or two, but it's a cool lake, a lot of diversity to it. And I'll be honest, man, I've been looking at these lakes for a while today, studying them and trying to figure out where I would start if I was to go there in the month of June. So let's just dive off right into it. Let's start right here on the Winter Chain. I've never been to this, so you guys don't make too much fun of me when I start looking at it. So I'm zooming in on this map and I start looking at these contours, and I think this is, I don't know the name of the lake. Let me zoom out. Lake Region Yacht and Country Club, Lake Fanny's right there. I don't know, it's a big lake in the Winter Chain. You guys will know. It's got Bonner's Island right there in the middle. So first thing I'm gonna look for, you know, anytime I come to Florida or anytime on a natural lake, or on any lake for that matter, look for current, find pinch points, you know, and in Florida, you know, I won an event down on Lake Istapoga late summer one time, and it was all current related. Everywhere I could find current, that's where I caught a lot of bass and caught some really nice ones. So, you know, when I look at this lake and I think about your predominant winds in Florida, a lot of times are out of the east, southeast. You know, you've got some canal openings. You got these canals that go to different lakes. You know, that water is just gonna flood, push all up in there, and then when it stops blowing, then it floods back out. So that's gonna be a really good spot, the mouths of these canals. I'm gonna run around, I'm gonna check a bunch of those really, really quick. You know, and then I look at something else on this lake, it's got something really peculiar down through here. It's got like a ridge, a really deep ridge, all here on the south edge. So, you know, I've never been to this lake. I've got to assume you've got grass growing out somewhere close to this deep, dredged out ridge. I'm gonna fish that somehow, some way. There's gonna be fish relating to that in some form or a fashion. I have to think there will be. Boat docks, you know, I'm gonna be looking for boat docks. I don't actually have them here on this map, but anywhere I got these contour lines that maybe come in a little deeper, I got boat docks around a point that wind could have generated current going around those points. I'm gonna concentrate on those boat docks. The other thing that I would look for, and we just gotta talk about in June, in all these lakes, is the bluegill spawn, the brim beds, you know, outside Kissimmee grass, around docks, on some of these other lakes, just off points, in the backs of pockets, brim beds. When you find a brim bed, you can always catch 2, 3, or 4 good bass around those brim beds. So here in Florida, you know, look on that outside Kissimmee grass, flip you a big jig, you know, or whatever your favorite bait is, but that would be something else that I would look for when I'm at these lakes. So let's wrap up these natural lakes in Florida, the Winter Chain in general. If I had to choose my grass, I want to look for hydrilla. I want to look for that outside edge of hydrilla, that new fresh growing hydrilla. I'm gonna look for those pinch points, whether it be wind, current, any drainage is coming in. Look for those bluegill beds, docks close to deeper water, on points. Those are gonna be the things that I'm gonna look for. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Where do you guys wanna go next? Do you wanna go to High Rock or Ray Roberts? Let's go to Ray Roberts. Let's go to Ray Roberts. Cool lake, super cool lake. Some of my first fishing memories were on that lake. I used to live just west of there in Bridgeport, Texas, and actually out in Paradise for a while. What a cool name for a town, Paradise, Texas. But then moved to Bridgeport. But anyway, early, my dad took me over here fishing. Oh, that's Louisville, on Ray Roberts. Cool lake. I think it's really neat. It's you know, it's one of the newer lakes that's been built. You know, in our whole world of bass fishing, it's a newer lake than a lot of them that are out there and about. Okay, I know a little bit about Ray Roberts, and in my mind, this section right here is the best section of that lake. You know, just, you've got two big major creeks, you got big giant flats all out here. You know, and we've talked about in all the projectees, you know, when you go to start on a lake, the bigger the flat, the more bass it holds, the more opportunities you have. So when I look at this lake, and you can take that to any lake. I mean, you can take it to Rayburn. When you think of the 4 or 5 most famous areas on Rayburn, it's those biggest flats. You can say that at Grand Lake. You know, Horse Creek's got some of the most flats. It's one of the most popular areas on Grand. It just goes on and on and on to every lake you ever go to. It's not the only place, but it's a place to start. Remember, that's the name of our video. So when I look at this lake right here, and I've got these major creeks coming in right here, and then I think of June, on this lake, these fish, there's gonna be a bunch of them that have pulled out that are super, super deep. And I mean, when I look at this thing and the things that I'm gonna look for and that I'm gonna think about, I mean, when I zoom in on this right here, I mean, I've got a big major point that comes out almost all the way across the lake. So you've got wind current coming this way, you got wind current coming this way. I promise you, somewhere on this point is a pile of fish. And if I was to start somewhere, like if I said, oh, right there, then I've got a timber line right there halfway across that point. They're gonna use that just like a highway. Really a neat spot. Then I've got right here, up shallower on that point, you can see a old pond dam. So the contour lines aren't exactly showing that pond dam, but there's gonna be one there. Then on this point right here, I've got a road bed coming off and a very steep drop right out on the tip. Then you look at this point over here, you've got a house foundation out off the tip. You've got a road coming off. I've got so many key little areas right there. Just, man, it'd take me forever to dissect that area. If I was to go up just a little bit further, I look at these secondary points. I look at stuff that's subtle, stuff that's not as defined as some of that other stuff. You know, when I think about this, you got this island right here, you got these road beds coming off of it, you know, intersecting those timber lines. I've got some house foundations. I've got a creek channel. Look right there. I've got a road coming out to a little secondary point that's not real defined, and a creek channel bend. I mean, and then 2 timber lines. It's just gonna be a really, really neat spot, a high percentage spot. That's the stuff I look for. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big main point coming off. I'm gonna try to find secondary stuff off of that stuff. This timber line here with a road right next to it, that pond dam up on that flat. That's the stuff I'm trying to find in the month of June, where I've got a big spawning creeks, spawning banks, spawning creeks. Those fish can pull right out here to all this structure all around here. You know, it's just one of those things that I'm gonna look for. Now, with that said, don't forget bluegill spawn. You might go up on this bank. You might see a honeycomb out there on your side image, and I need to show you a picture of that sometime. But, you know, don't forget about that. And then grass. You know, there's some areas on Ray Roberts that's got grass. There's a little bit of hydrilla there from what I remember. There's coontail there. And you know, for the most part, that grass on this lake is up in this creek right here. I don't remember the name of it. It seems like it starts with a B, but a lot of that grass is gonna be up here. And you know, it just, we've talked about it, grass and bass, it rhymes. If you find grass, you're gonna find bass. I don't care what time of the year it is. But that creek right there, generally speaking, historically, always has grass in it. So keep that stuff in mind. Pay attention to these road beds, those power lines, any of those intersections that you can find, especially when it's on top of structure. You know, Ray Roberts is one of those lakes that find you something if you took all the timber away, because it can be a little overwhelming at times looking at all that timber. And take that timber away, find the structure underneath the water, and then use that timber to your advantage. So that is Ray Roberts in a nutshell. You know, I'm gonna be throwing a deep crankbait, a football jig, a Carolina rig, a stand-up worm, a hair jig will be part of it, you know, for that offshore structure that those fish live in right there on that lake. All right, guys, let's go to High Rock. Just a cool lake out in North Carolina. Let's see if I can find it. Zoom in on North Carolina. It is halfway between Charlotte and Raleigh, I think. Zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. Oh, right there. I put a waypoint on it just so I'd remember where it was at. That waypoint really doesn't mean anything, it's on the land. Okay, High Rock Lake. It's a neat lake. It's like, to me, when I think of High Rock Lake, I think of David Fritz. I mean, I feel like, you know, as a kid growing up, I'd always hear about him, you know, throwing a crankbait on High Rock Lake back in the day. So, you know, that's what I think's neat about it. And the little bit that I know about High Rock Lake, you know, generally those fish are in all depths, you know, because you've got stained water there and you've got clean water, and you can catch those fish in a lot of different depths, you know. They're not going to be all out deep, and they're not going to all be up shallow. You know, I like when I look at a lake, I like to just, when I zoom out on any map, find stuff that's irregular to that lake. So, you know, I've got a big creek right here that runs north and south. So I think about, you know, a south wind blowing, I'm going to have a lot of current going in that creek, where this creek runs more east and west. I think about creek channel bends. I think about watercolor change. On so many lakes, you know, the upper end's dirty, the lower end's clear. Somewhere in the middle is that medium water, you know, that new water, that not super clear and not super dirty. I like to find those stretches of the lake. I mean, it is just on every lake, if you think to the most productive areas in June, it's where those watercolors mix. And for me on this lake, I think it's that stretch right there. You know, those three creeks, somewhere in through there, that's where that's gonna happen. Now, I know a little bit about the lake, you know, and if I had to say, hey, where are you gonna start in June? Man, I'd probably go to this creek right here. I know a lot of tournaments go out of this creek. I've got a really cool pinch point in that bridge. June, you could still have a shad spawn going on in the morning. I could start on that riprap right there, and then I could just work my way out, cranking all these points coming out of this creek. And then when I get to the mouth of this creek, you can see I got some really cool secondary points. You know, I got a road coming off this one, but I got some really neat little secondary, not so defined points that might be good. You know, I've got a saddle right here that could have wind blowing through it, you know, could be a deal where I could catch some shallower fish on a topwater first thing in the morning right there at the mouth of that creek. But I am gonna look, I'm gonna start like at the mouth of that creek, or maybe out at the mouth of this creek. I got a road coming off a little secondary point. I mean, that to me just screams I'd catch a bass right there. It just looks super good. I've got, it tops out at 19. It just looks awesome. I don't know what else you'd ask. I mean, this inside creek channel bend right here looks really, really good to me. This hump right here with the road bed going across it looks really, really good to me. That's the kind of stuff that I would go fish. With that said, there's still gonna be shallow fish. There's still gonna be brim spawning behind those docks. This lake's got tons of docks. You know, I'd focus more on these smaller pockets out towards the main lake if it were me. Man, those are like the highlights of where I'd fish. I'd pay attention to, you know, possibly rock changes, to clay banks, to water clarity. You know, in the afternoon, you're gonna have a lot of boat traffic, you know, maybe make you some mud lines out on those main lake points. Cranking those, you know, mud lines would be something else I'd try to look at. Try to keep myself in the wind out there where stuff's happening. Guys, that is my 3 lakes, where to start in June. Leave me a comment, tell me if I was close on your lake or if I was way off, or if any of this stuff's helping you. You know, again, there's other things that'll work. You know, if the water's high here on High Rock, you know, there's some willow trees, there's some stuff that you could go fish flooded. I'm not saying these are the only things. You've got to take your lake and your conditions into account. you know, when the water gets high, gets muddy, obviously those fish aren't going to be out offshore deep as easy to catch as those ones that are up shallow in that newly flooded vegetation. So, you know, with this said, I'm doing this general with normal conditions. So keep that in mind. I appreciate you guys following along. Leave a comment, hit that like button. I'm gonna pick a winner when we go to do the next video, and hopefully it's you, and we'll send you a brand new blue top battery. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next week.